Welcome back to the Golden State with Mates post-game live after the Warriors suffer a 117-110 Game 4 defeat to the Minnesota Timberwolves at Chase Center on Monday night. I was just disappointed, I suppose, with the Game 3 result because I genuinely thought the Warriors could have won that game and thought there were a few officiating decisions that went against them and proved pivotal in that game. This one I'm more just mad about. Like from a Warrior perspective, I'm genuinely pretty pissed off because I continue to believe that Minnesota aren't good. Well, like they're good, but like they're not that good, right? Like I think this series with Steph would be a completely different story. And I also think the Warriors are actually more than capable of winning, or were more than capable of winning one of these two games, even without Steph on their home floor. And to have Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green, the two veteran players, the two proven playoff performers, not step up with their veteran teammate on the sidelines and play as not just as badly as they did, but as passively as they did when you're 2-1 down and the season's on the line. That's inexcusable to me. I'm going to have to, I haven't listened to any of the press conferences or anything yet, but I'm going to have to, I need some reasoning as to why those two guys in particular came out and played the way they did. Like, I have no issue, if Jimmy came out and shot the ball 20 times, only made 5 of them and didn't shoot efficiently and the Warriors lost the game. Like, I'd be more okay with that than what I saw was 9 shot attempts, 14 points, and not even try and provide an answer. Like, let's be honest, Golden State's season here ended in a 5-minute burst in the third quarter. The game was tied at 68. The Warriors were right there. They had the opportunity again. And then Minnesota go on a 17-0 run, of which Anthony Edwards has 11 of them, and all of a sudden they're up 85-68. And the Warriors had no answer, and Jimmy didn't even try to give an answer. And to me, that is the biggest frustration from this game. And then on the other end of the floor, Julius Randle starts out like a house on fire. And I'm there thinking to myself, like, in fairness, like Steve, it might be a Steve Kerr issue as well, because Steve started out with Trace Jackson Davis on Randle and Draymond guarding Gobert so he could try and, be that help defender, as he did quite well, I thought, in Game 3. But at some point, if I'm Draymond Green, I believe I'm the best defender of this generation, I'm putting my hand up and saying I'm taking the Randall matchup personally. I'm taking that matchup one-on-one. And he did a couple of times and he got a couple of stops, but Julius Randle still goes for 31 in this game. And I just think that's not a great advertisement for Draymond as the supposed, I suppose, and I like to call him like the best defender of this generation, but that's not a good advertisement for that claim when the opposing power forward goes for 31 efficient points, right? So Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, just inexcusable performances. And I just want to know some answers. I want to hear something on why those guys played as passively as they did. Draymond on the defensive end, where he just had no impact whatsoever, and Jimmy on the offensive end, where he took 9 shots. 9 shots in a game without Steph Curry, where the season is on the line. What are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Right? So let's get more into this. Of course, we'll have some discussion on the NBA draft lottery results at the end there as well, with the Dallas Mavericks stunningly getting the number 1 overall pick. If there's a conspiracy theory in that or not, just let me know if you believe in it. But we'll discuss that. And of course, I'm sure we'll get into some Giannis trade rumors as well after Shams Charania of ESPN reported earlier in the day that the Bucks superstar is open to exploring a potential move away from Milwaukee this offseason. It's going to be huge, no doubt about that. But on this game, your comments here, Thandex says we really couldn't win one game at home without Steph, facing a 3-1 deficit, and Jimmy doesn't take 20 to 30 shots. I was so disappointed. And guys, like, I'm sure people bring up Pods, and Pods didn't produce again. What he had, 11 points, 3 of 14 shooting. He's a second-year player. It's hard for me to put a whole heap of blame on a second-year player. Like, I think the inconsistent nature of young players is bound to happen. And therefore, like, I'm not putting this on Pods really whatsoever. Kuminga gave the Warriors a real opportunity. And, man, again, it's so disappointing that, like, another loss has to kind of take takes away a little bit from the fact that Jonathan Kuminga had a really good game again, and particularly in the first half, he was the man, right? 16 points late in that second quarter. He was so good that Steve Kerr said to Jimmy Butler, you rest the last 4.5 minutes of the half. Jimmy Butler did not close the first half of this game, right? And I'm not sure if that had an impact on his lack of aggression in the third quarter or early in the fourth quarter as well. But to me, like, that was the perfect situation where Jonathan Kuminga stood up in a huge way in that first half, gave the Warriors the lead, allowed Jimmy Butler to rest significantly. And you think, okay, Jimmy's allowed to be a little bit passive in this first half, actually being allowed to rest and not, overwork himself too much. That should lead to a huge Jimmy Butler second half. Not forthcoming. And that's what makes it even more disappointing. It's like, man, your young teammate, your 22-year-old young teammate who's been damn out of the rotation for 6 out of an 8-game stretch in recent weeks, he comes out, gives the team the lead without you doing a single thing. Essentially, you get to rest the last 4 minutes of the half, and then you still have the audacity to come out and do nothing in the second half. Like, I'm pissed. And I know Jimmy's been great. Jimmy Butler is the reason we are in this position right now in a second round playoff series. Don't get me wrong. He has been fantastic. Okay. But you got to analyze this on this game basis, right? I'm basing this on what I just saw. And what I just saw was an horrifically passive performance from Jimmy Butler, right? And we've seen this at times across his few months stint with the franchise. Now, we've seen fans get frustrated at his lack of aggression in terms of hunting his own shot. We saw in game 3, and this is why I don't want to hear any excuses about, he's still dealing with injury or whatever else. We saw what he did in game 3. He started to hunt his own shot. He had 33 points with 8 minutes still to go in the fourth. He ran out of puff, ran out of gas right in the last 8 minutes of that game. Fine. I actually, he had to exert himself that much in that game that I don't actually have too many issues with that. Was I disappointed? Yes, but at the end of the day, he still had 33 points and was really, really good. Okay, this game, there's just no excuse to me. There is no excuse. I don't want to hear the injury thing. Jonathan Kuminga gives you an opportunity, right? Team high 23 points, 16 in the first half, makes all these free throws. Just a fantastic Jonathan Kuminga half, right? Absolutely incredible. And yet Jimmy Butler can't pay that off by rising to the occasion in the second half. Okay, so I don't want to hear the pod stuff. I don't want to hear something like, Kuminga should have done more in the second half. No, piss off, right? I don't want to hear, it'd be good if Moses Moody didn't, and Quentin Post didn't just completely lose the plot and find themselves out of the rotation at this point. I don't want to hear anything about the young players. Now, can you say something about the front office and suggesting that, maybe they should have used those young players to get another veteran piece? Maybe. If you want to make that argument, fine. But to me, this is squarely on the shoulders of Jimmy Butler offensively and Draymond Green defensively. Okay. Now, is this simply the reality of the Warriors without Steph Curry as well? Absolutely, right? The Warriors were always going to be up against it without Steph Curry. But the reality is that they've also lost these last 2 games by a combined 12 points. It has been rather close, right? It has been dead set pretty close. Now, was the margin made to look a little bit better, I suppose, in this game by what happened in the last few minutes? Maybe. But regardless, okay, these were 2 winnable games. Genuinely 2 winnable games with or without Steph Curry. And Jimmy Butler didn't rise to the occasion in this game 4, and neither did Draymond. So, I don't know. I'm just really pissed off because this was a legitimate opportunity. I thought the Warriors could have at least taken one of these 2 games. Maybe you get Steph back for game 6, and who knows, right? I'm just disappointed for the Steph injury in general because, I just don't think the Timberwolves are very good. The Thunder and Nuggets are currently at 2-2. The Knicks are currently 3-1 up on the Celtics now, and Jason Tatum, unfortunately, devastatingly looks like he might have a torn Achilles. Fingers crossed that's not the case. But man, it's wide open now. I think the Knicks are going to make the final. The Knicks or the Pacers are probably going to make the finals out of the East, which is wild, right? And in the West, who knows? Minnesota, who I don't think are very good, could probably make it out as well. This was a real opportunity and one that's gone wasted. And yes, Steph's injury is the biggest part of that. But the Warriors, I still think it's no excuse for the passive performances we saw from Jimmy and Draymond. The next says, would you bring Steph back for game 5? Knox says, no, the season over. Let him rest for the offseason. I don't think you'd bring him back for game 5. Seeing some of these torn Achilles recently, and I've seen a few in the AFL as well. They seem to be like a little bit more frequent than what I've seen previously. I don't know. It's a bit of a weird one, but particularly guys that are like Tatum's 27 years old. And again, I don't want to forecast he's got a torn Achilles. I'm sure the Celtics medical staff would know already. But if he does have a torn Achilles, that man's 27 years old. He's younger than me. He's younger than me. And I just worry about like bringing Steph back for a series decider game 5 when he's not going to be 100% and the potential of doing something really, really, really bad, right? In the case of a torn Achilles. Now, the chance of that might be minuscule, but we've seen what happened with Kevin Durant. You know, he had a calf strain. He came back in the finals and tore his Achilles. Again, different muscle. Steph's got a hamstring, but all of this stuff with, different leg injuries and stuff can make you overcompensate with other areas and stuff like that. So I don't know. I wouldn't bring him back for game 5. No, I just think maybe you just got to hope. That's all we've really got left. I don't know how the Warriors could possibly win game 5 in Minnesota, but maybe you just hope that they can get back off the canvas and somehow pull one out, and then you get game 6 back at home and maybe Steph's available. I don't know. We'll see. FTW Clan says, I'm going to be honest, Jimmy didn't even try. 9-shot attempts is unacceptable. Absolutely. Thenix says $60 million for 9 shots. Like, why? This team is scared to shoot, just passing the ball around. Lucky Jelly says, I'm honestly scared being down 3-1 hurts. I'm not scared. I'm just consigned to our fate, I think, at this point. Thenix is another game 7. We'll see if they can get themselves up off the canvas. As I said, Lucky Jelly said, yeah, Butler was way too passive. I agree. For a $60 million player, for that supermax money, I expect Butler to play like Steph. I mean, it says time to blow up this team, rebuild team like OKC, New York Rockets if Dubs cannot get Giannis. Well, that's to me like that's this playoff meltdown. And at the end of the day, you're never going to prepare to lose Steph Curry in a playoff series, right? But you got to try and give yourself a little bit more room for error. And Jimmy does or should have given them a little bit more room for error. But you can't have a performance like that. And to me, I'm looking at it thinking, man, if you got to try and find a way to get Giannis. Because not only is Giannis going to be the perfect running mate for a 37, next season will be 38-year-old Steph Curry, but he's also, what's Giannis, 30, 31? It's not as if he's super old. He could extend your timeline a little bit out here, and it just allows you to have much more room for error. Like, if Giannis is in the spot right now instead of Jimmy, what are we thinking? I'm thinking it's a much different result. I'm thinking the Warriors are winning at least one of these last 2 games, if not both, right? Because at least with Giannis, you'd have the opportunity to have someone that could go head-to-head with Ant. And in this game, when Ant stepped it up, when he put the foot to the floor in the third quarter, where was Jimmy Butler? He was nowhere to be seen. I'm sorry, he just wasn't. So, yeah. Lucky Jelly says, Kuminga played like a beast. Jimmy is underwhelming for his Supermax. If you had a more team-friendly $30 to $45 million deal, I'd be easier on Jimmy, but he isn't Supermax Steph or Giannis money. Gianni says, with Steph out and Jimmy in, we are 0-5. Hawks, Heat, Wolves. 30 is the definition of MVP. JRM said, Pods is trash. Look, trash. Has he been trash in this series? Yeah, sure. But, like, again, he's a second-year guard. I'm just not putting much blame on him because I just think this is what the reality is of a young player. Lucky Jelly says, now we don't have money because Dunleavy wasted it on Jimmy. I don't know how we can sign players with Jimmy's ridiculous contract. Well, at the end of the day, like, you had to give him that contract for him to want to remain and not potentially walk in free agency. So we'll wait and see. I genuinely think, like, this is the kind of performance where you've got to look at it and say, if we have a chance of getting Giannis Antetokounmpo, you do everything but Steph Curry to make it happen. And that includes Jimmy Butler. That includes Draymond Green, right? It includes those guys. Now, it would only take one of them, you'd imagine. But this is what we're looking at. Okay? So it's almost, maybe it's a blessing in disguise to show that, hey, Jimmy ain't that guy anymore. He just ain't, which is unfortunate. He's been super helpful, super impactful. And I don't want to take away from Jimmy Butler getting us to this position, okay? Because it sounds like I'm just hating on the man. I'm talking about potentially trading him for Giannis. Okay, I don't want to take away from what he's done over the past 3 months, which has been truly incredible to get the Warriors to this position where, with a fit and healthy Steph Curry, I think they'd be on their way to the conference finals right now. I truly do. So I don't want to take away from that. But at the same time, we're going to base this off what we have just seen over the last 3 games. And what we've seen is a guy that cannot match Anthony Edwards consistently. He did it through the first 3 quarters of game 3, and I give him credit for that. But he did not do it in this game. The Warriors, if you can try and increase your room for error just a little bit and upgrade your roster by getting Giannis Antetokounmpo, you got to do it. And I'm sure 29 other teams around the league would be saying the same thing. Then next says even Dre wasn't that good on defense. Just completely non-existent, basically. Just a really awful Draymond Green game. Just like no impact whatsoever. Robbie says pay JK in the offseason and trade Jimmy. Lucky Jelly says, I wish we were more aggressive to get Levine. He's much cheaper than Jimmy and a better scorer than Jimmy. I don't agree with that. I don't think if you swap them, I don't think the Warriors season is still alive. Okay. So that's not what I'm talking about. Jimmy Butler's a better, more impactful piece than Zach LaVine. Okay. Let's not get one game mixed up here, right? Let's not do that. Okay. Jimmy Butler is perhaps the primary reason the Warriors are in this position right now. Okay. He's a much more impactful player, much more winning player than Zach LaVine. Okay. But if you have an opportunity to truly upgrade, not a sideways trade where you get a guy of a similar level of Jimmy, but a real upgrade, which is, hello, Giannis Antetokounmpo, then you got to do it. Lucky Jelly says, Jimmy cost the same $60 million as two $30 million Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Then it says, this is our season. Giannis is coming to the West. It's only going to get harder. Cooper Flagg's coming to the bloody West. The Spurs got the 2nd overall pick. Like, man, just a terrible day, really, because, like, the West is just going to get stronger. I mean, terrible. I mean, it could be worse. You could be a Celtics fan right now, I suppose, and just watch Tatum tear his Achilles, and that's a real nightmare for them and a real disaster. I actually feel bad for Celtics fans who, I mean, it just goes to show you got to take advantage. You got to capitalize on your opportunities when you get it, because any idea, the Warriors are super lucky to have a dynasty and win 4 championships in 7 years. But these kind of things can go far quicker than what you may think. Right. The Celtics would have thought with Tatum, with Brown, with the impressive roster that they've put together, that they would have had a real chance at a dynasty of winning multiple championships. All of a sudden, they've won 1, which is great. They won 1, fantastic. But now they find themselves in a situation where Tatum may have done his Achilles. They're down 3-1 in the conference semifinals. They have got an exorbitant roster in terms of their payroll, which they're probably going to have to make some moves to fix that up. That's just the reality, unfortunately, of the first and second tax apron right now. So that just goes to show you got to capitalize on your opportunity. And this is why it's so frustrating, because I think the Warriors actually had a dead set opportunity here if Steph didn't get injured to actually, like as I said on last post-game live after game 3, like genuinely win the championship. As much as I think this is not a great roster, like I think it's flawed. I think we've seen that over the last 3 games. I think there's a distinct lack of scoring. There's a distinct lack of shooting beyond Steph and Buddy Hield. There is, just the ability to put the ball in the basket to me is, I mean, I know they scored 110 points in this game, but to me, like some of the missed layups that I saw in this game, just like GP2, what are you doing? Loon, any chance finishing some of these around the rim? Like, just really, really disappointing. And a roster that is flawed, but yet because of the brilliance of Steph Curry, because of the impact of Jimmy Butler, because of, I suppose we wouldn't have seen this Kuminga development had Curry not got injured, but even still, Draymond's playoff experience and defense could have actually taken this team a long way and far, far further than what we expected. Jeff says, down 3-1 now, hope they will win game 5. Actually pissed they can't win a home game. Might be the tailbone bothering Jimmy. I don't really. I mean, is he 100%? No, but you're out on the floor. You had 33 points in game 3. To me, it's not an excuse. Then next says, Steph is the GOAT. This team can't do anything without him, from Kerr to Dre and the role players. Don't really want to hear. Like, I've already seen some Steve Kerr stuff on the timeline, man. It's just ridiculous. Anytime the Warriors lose a game, it's all on Steve Kerr. Like, really? Like, I mean, is it Steve Kerr's fault that Jimmy Butler only shot the ball 9 times? Is it his fault that Draymond Green showed no intensity on defense? Is it his fault that Steph Curry did a hamstring? Maybe. Okay, maybe you can say, oh, well, he pushed him way too far in game 7, and that's why he did his hammy in game 1. Maybe. Like Jelly says, Jimmy is overrated, in my opinion. You don't know if you get 12 points or 30 from him. Yeah, but he can also impact the game in other ways with his playmaking, his rebounding, his defense. And I just think, like, he took this team from an 11th seed in the Western Conference and has taken them to the second round of the playoffs, which I think is a really, really big feat, right? And I don't want to take away from that. This performance individually, despicable, horrific. Got to be way, way better. And unfortunately, he's probably not going to be able to have the opportunity. He's going to have one opportunity in game 5, and even then it might not be enough. FTW Clan says, it's honestly insane to me how that we benched Kuminga for the last few weeks, and now we're sitting here hoping and praying that he can keep our season alive. That's what happened in the first half. Kuminga was keeping the Warriors alive. It's I tweeted out at halftime, it's one of the most stunning turnarounds from an individual athlete in the space of a couple of weeks that I've ever seen. From out of the rotation completely to, Jimmy, you just sit on the bench for the final 4 minutes of the first half of a high-stakes playoff game with our season on the line because JK's got our offense. Like, dead set. And it was fine. It was the right decision. Like, I had no issue with Steve keeping him on the bench for the last 4 minutes of the half, right? So long as Jimmy came out and actually used that rest to come out aggressively in the second half, and he just didn't, which to me is on Jimmy, not Steve. So, Antonio says, Kuminga deserves better. Kerr dogged this guy for Anthony Lamb, and this year treat him like garbage. Look forward to him getting his money and a new start. We'll wait and see. Again, if I'm the Warriors, I question how you could let him walk when he's really the lone positive of these last 3 games. He's really the only positive. And therefore, can you really allow him just to walk for nothing in free agency, or do you have to execute some kind of sign and trade? We'll wait and see. Jess says, Warriors just not an elite offensive team without Steph. That's a reality. I don't know why I'm being timed out, just being honest. Yeah, no, fair. Fair, like they're just not an elite offensive team. They just had to be much better defensively in this game. I think they should have been much better offensively. Missed a bunch of threes. Obviously, they were 29.7% from deep. The Timberwolves were 16 of 34. To me, defensively, starts with Draymond. They had to be so much better. They cannot, without Steph Curry, give up 117 points and expect to win a game. They just cannot do that, right? So defensively, I thought they were appalling, to be honest, which is really disappointing because they've been the best defense in the league since the Jimmy Butler trade across the course of the regular season, at least until the closure of that. And Steph had some impact defensively, it must be said, throughout these playoffs before he got injured, but I don't think anyone's thinking that Steph Curry should take too much away from your defense necessarily. Like you, Jelly said, the NBA draft is rigged. How did a playing team get the number 1 pick? The tanking for Cooper Flagg didn't even work. Lol. Then next says the Wizards and Utah tank for nothing. Then next says the NBA is rigged. AD to the Lakers and Pelicans get the first pick now. Luka to the Lakers and Mavs get the first pick. All right, let's get on to that then. Because I'm sitting there watching before the Knicks Celtics game. I'm sitting there watching the draft lottery. I was shocked with the top 4. Like, because obviously they do the 14 down to 5 and then they take the ad break. And I was there just shaking my head at that because I was like, hang on. So unless Charlotte get it, Flagg's going to Dallas, Philly, or San Antonio, which is just a disaster for every other team, right? For every other team that doesn't get him. Like, I was there thinking, so like Dallas, how are they, like, they're going to get Cooper Flagg. And then it could have been Philly. And it's like, well, as bad as a season as Philly had, if you add Cooper Flagg to Joel Embiid, to Paul George, to Tyrese Maxey, to Jared McCain coming back from injury, I'm like, okay, well, that's a squad now that you can at least, like, is a little bit scary if they can get healthy, which is a big if. And, maybe that was probably the best outcome of the 3, because then I'm looking at San Antonio and thinking, you can't put Flagg with Wemby, surely. Right. And Spurs end up with the second pick anyway. They'll probably go and get Giannis. Stuff it. They'll probably be like, we can go get Giannis now. We've got the assets to do it. Let's pair those 2 guys. That makes sense from a basketball perspective with the way Wemby can space the floor. Just an absolute, like, seriously, just give it up. Just the league should fold. The league should fold if Wemby and Giannis team up. But yeah, like, I was there. I was shocked as it was. And then when Charlotte were like 4th, I was like, oh my God, it's actually going to happen. Flagg's going to go to one of these 3 teams. And then for it to be Dallas, I was just like, man, I'll be honest. Like, before it, I was like, this sounds like the conspiracy theories are going to fly off the shelf, and they have been. And this is my problem: is I don't know why you can't. Why can't you televise the actual lottery live? Don't just give me the results. Show me the balls getting bounced around. Right? Can someone give me a reasoning as to why they don't provide that? I saw someone on Twitter saying, "Oh, it would be boring. No one would watch it." What do you mean it'd be boring? It'd be the greatest theater. Like, let me see the Dallas Mavericks have one ball or whatever in the entire thing, and that somehow comes out at number one. Literally show me. So I'm not saying that it was rigged, but I would just like to see, and it's not just for this draft lottery. I'd like to see for every draft lottery, just show me the actual lottery taking place. Don't just give me the results, because that's good enough theater as it is. But I actually want to see the balls come out, right? So, man, it's just wild. And all of a sudden, Dallas have gone from a position where they've just traded a franchise cornerstone who, like, an absolute disastrous situation, to all of a sudden now, this doesn't make the Luka trade right. Don't get me wrong. But all of a sudden, it's like they can have, Cooper Flagg, Anthony Davis. They can have Clay. Kyrie's going to come back from injury. And all of a sudden, they look like a team that, if healthy, should be making the playoffs next season. They should be making the playoffs anyway, let alone adding Cooper Flagg to the mix. I mean, maybe they wouldn't have made the playoffs next season, with Kyrie still being out for a large portion. But Cooper Flagg, to me, looks like a guy that can come in and impact winning straight away. It's just wild. It's what a day for Dallas. And maybe their fans deserve this after the Luka thing, but then that just delves into the conspiracy theory of, well, was this planned all along? I don't know. Empire says trade Green, Moody, Looney, GP2, Kuminga, Buddy, and Jimmy for a center and consistent shooters. Make sure they are under the age of 30. Yeah, the center spot's certainly up for debate, although I thought Trace was okay in this game. Didn't play a whole lot. Looney had a bunch of rebounds, but some of those just came because he was missing easy putbacks. Danger Zone says, if you think Steph is going to let them trade Draymond, you're crazy. Oh, he would. He absolutely. If the front office goes to Steph and says, we can trade Draymond for Giannis, Steph's a very loyal person, and that's what we love about him. But you'd be damn sure he's saying, yeah, you do that. Like, I'm sorry, Draymond. And I reckon, you know what Draymond would say? I think Draymond would say, yeah, look, fair enough. Fair enough, too. Because if you got the opportunity to get Giannis Antetokounmpo, you got to do that. Now, are the Bucks going to want Draymond? No, I don't think so. Like, it'd take every asset the Warriors have. Maybe Kuminga sign and trade part of it. Pajemski, Moody, all the future first-round picks and pick swaps. It's going to take everything, but maybe you just got to try and do it, right? And fill out the roster beyond that. He says another option is to get LeBron, KD, Steph to take pay cuts to make one last ride to the Big Show epic ending. That'd be nice to see, but unlikely. Particularly, KD's contracted for another year. Lucky Jelly says, Dallas doesn't need Cooper Flagg. How is AD, Flagg, and Kyrie fair? Makes the West even harder for us Warrior fans. Absolutely. Lucky Jelly says, did the NBA change the draft lottery? Usually the worst teams get picks 1 to 3, not a playing team that is already good. Well, the worst teams get the highest odds. So Utah, Washington, and Charlotte? Utah, Washington, and Charlotte all got a 14.8% chance or whatever it is. Dallas come into it with a 1.8% chance and think, yep, I'll just take that. Thanks. I'll take the number one pick. Just ludicrous, man. Just ludicrous. All we wanted in 2020 was to get what we deserved. The Warriors had the worst record in the league. All we wanted was just to give us the number one pick. Because right now we'd probably have Ant. Right. And we'd be in a much better situation. But instead, they just had to give that to Minnesota and we get picked 2 and, of course, take James Wiseman. Then it says, look, like, how is it fair for the smaller markets? They need to come up with a new format. People watch the lottery. Millions of people watch the UEFA Champions League formation. Yep, for sure. They need to. Young West says they used to provide the ball spinning picks on TV. I don't think I watched any of those live, but I have seen replays of such. Lucky Jelly says, Dallas getting Flagg honestly pisses me off. I feel bad for Utah and other teams that actually need him. It's like 2025 Celtics seeing Anthony Edwards since he was the number one pick. Okay, interesting comparison, but yes, I do agree that it's unfair, and particularly unfair on those. It goes to show you that tanking doesn't work. Like it just doesn't, and you've still got to have an extreme amount of luck. And it's unfortunate, particularly for a team like Utah, who I think would be looking back at it thinking we should have taken whatever the Warriors had on offer for Lauri Markkanen, because they could have at least cast their net a lot wider and they've still got plenty of assets and draft assets and stuff like that to come, but they could have cast their net far wider. And I think that's the whole point is you cannot rely on lottery luck, even if you are the worst team in the league, even if you have tanked the whole season. And therefore, I think it's far better to try and get as many assets as you can rather than, just relying on this, one simple, lottery. Because right now, if you're Utah, okay, you get the 5th pick, you might draft a good player, but are you really going to get a franchise cornerstone that you want or you need? Probably not. And therefore, what are you going to do? You could just go into next season again tanking, and Lauri Markkanen's now 8 years into his career without a single playoff game. Like, I think they would be looking back now thinking, yeah, we probably should have, because now, okay, you can trade Markkanen again this offseason, but his value is probably at a quarter maybe of what he was at last offseason, where the Warriors would have given up real assets to get him. He was on a great contract at $17 million, just come off a great season and was an all-star the year before that. And now he's coming off a season where he was pretty inefficient. His points and numbers went down. He appeared in just 47 games, few injury issues, albeit that's probably Utah sitting him a bit more because they wanted to tank. And now he's on, $43 million. Like, he's just a quarter of the value of a player that he was last offseason. So they missed a big opportunity, I think. Empire says either Warriors have to find a great defensive center or trade Dre. He's too old now. He wasn't even trying to close out most of the game. Well, the issue is, like, you need a great defensive center and you need a great offensive center, because Draymond limits you offensively as well. And that's always been the issue, I suppose, and why he's played so much small ball here for the Warriors over the second half of the season, which could have potentially impacted him in a game like this one where he's just gassed. He's just old. He's 35. He's been playing a lot of small ball center. And this is kind of the result that you get, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, the roster still needs a fair overhaul in the offseason, I think. The next is they should remove conferences. The East is now weak. No point of it existing. I think ideally they would do that for the playoffs and just have a 1-16 format. But I get the issues you'd run into in terms of travel and stuff like that if you just removed the conferences. Ghost says Pods is literally having the worst shooting player field goal percentage by any player in playoff history right now. Historically trash. Yep. Yeah, I agree. But again, I'm not sure. To me, it goes on your veteran guys. It goes on the guys that have been here, done it before. And to me, that's why I'm putting this fairly and squarely on Jimmy and Dre more so than Pods. Lucky Jelly says Dallas is intimidating. They have money to build since Cooper will be on a cheap rookie contract. Absolutely. That's why if I'm the Spurs as well, I'm going all out right now with Wemby, because Wemby's got 2 more years on his rookie contract before you'll need to pay him. That's why they should be going out and trying to make as many big moves as they can. I think why not go for it next season? Ghost says if this was Jaco, oh my, he would have been DNP for the next 10 years in regards to Pods. I mean, it's the same conversation as we had after game 3 is like, okay, but who's taking his minutes exactly? Like Pat Spencer, Moody, I just don't know who. The Warriors basically have 6 guys right now. It's a starting 5, and it's Kuminga and maybe some GP2 and some Looney, but it's not great. Lucky Jelly, would Jimmy and Draymond trade work for Giannis? It'd be actually be too much money. I'm not sure, like, at the end of the day, Milwaukee, you'd think, although Milwaukee don't have their picks, so they're going to want to remain somewhat relevant. I'm not sure they're probably not going to want either of those guys, let alone both of them. Yeah, we'll wait and see. The Warriors can probably try and get in the conversation, and they have more than some teams, but they also have far less than others. Like a team like Houston, they're going all in. A team like, the Spurs, OKC could make a run. Like, who knows? Young West says, Warriors fans get ready for the dark years when Steph is gone. Dumpster Fire Dan says, JK still with 0 rebounds. Well, in fairness, Minnesota have actually got a miss for that to happen, for him to grab a rebound, and they were 49.4% from the floor, 47.1% from three-point range. So more really concerned with the defense more so than the rebounding. Lucky Jelly says, what sucks is that in 2020 we should have got Anthony Edwards since our record was worse than the Wolves. I'm not sure if you commented that before I made mention of it, but if you did, we're on the same path there. Ghost says, I ain't taking no JK slander. Last 3 games he's been hooping like our best or second best player if you watch the game. Our best player in this game, our best player by far, second best to Jimmy last game. So on the basis of the last 2 games, he has been the best player overall, which is wild to think about. Like legitimately wild to think about that this guy was out of the rotation completely and he's come back being your best player across the course of 2 games in a playoff series where you could have actually won both games. Like dead set, you could have won both games and he was your best player. So it's truly wild and credit to him and good on him for doing what he's done because he's probably earned himself a bag just with these couple of performances. Dumpster Dan says, JK wasn't good tonight. He scored okay, but was bad at everything else. If you don't think JK was good, then I don't know. There was no one that was good then. As simple as that. Like no one played well if you don't think Kuminga was good. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to put this into context, and Kuminga was very, very good for what we've seen from him, I think, since he's come back from the injury. And again, putting it in the context that this guy was literally out of the rotation. Like, I think getting 15 points from Kuminga would be a good result based on how he's been treated over the last few weeks, which, again, I'm not saying that's right or wrong or whatever else, but again, based on that, I'd be happy with 15 points. In fact, he's gone for 53 over the last 2 games on pretty good efficiency is a real credit to him. Empire says, Jelly, Jimmy, and Green for Giannis would be straight robbing the Bucks. Yeah, it'd be all the picks involved as well. Ghost says, because no one else can score the ball, don't you think? Literally no one. Dumpster Finance says, I wonder what JK's trade value is. It will be interesting for sure. Young West says, I'm pretty sure Warriors would have picked Wiseman over Edwards if they had the number 1 pick. Didn't Kerr say didn't like Edwards' work ethic? Yeah, he had that session with the Warriors where Steve really got into him about his work ethic. I'm not sure. We'd have to ask Bob Myers maybe he's already answered it, but yeah, I think the Warriors, I think they were comfortable with, the Timberwolves taking 1 and them taking Wiseman. I think they were comfortable with that, and they really thought Wiseman could be something. But I still think there's a chance if they had pick 1, they'd take Ant. Lucky Joe says, James Wiseman is still the biggest second pick fumble. Missed out on Hallie LaMelo and Denny Avdia, who was a great scorer and rebounder. Yeah, any of those guys would be helpful, particularly Hallie. And even Avdia, I agree with you on Denny. Like, I think he'd be a perfect fit in the Warriors system. B24 says, crazy thing is that we're about to let a 22-year-old that can score 30 points in a playoff game walk for 2 35-year-olds that cost $85 million next year. That's a good point. Ghost says, anybody but him if he plays like that. Empire says, Warriors should trade for some Heat and Bulls players. Why? We're trying to make the play-in? Is that we want to be part of the play-in again? Is that what we're doing? Lucky Jelly says, imagine Steph and Giannis. It would be magic like Kobe and Shaq in their prime, plus Giannis like Steph. Yep, would be nice to see. Again, I don't think it's going to happen, but it's far more possible than it was 24 hours ago with the report from Shams today. Young West says, these last few games was a big opportunity for our young guys to make a name for themselves. Kuminga's certainly done that. I mean, he says, no draft picks for the Dubs this year, 2025. We do have a 41st overall pick, which I'm sure, yeah, maybe Mike Dunleavy Jr. can work his magic after taking TJD and Post in the last 2 years. Bexio says 65 million ? If that's in response to the 85 million that B24 said before, I think his 85 million was with Jimmy and Draymond combined make 85 million. Danger Zone says, JK fans hate Pods. Pods fans hate JK. Just be a Warriors fan. Stop being a hater and finger pointing after every loss. I absolutely agree with that. It is a little bit disappointing that the Warriors have not been able to get Kuminga and Pods to play well together. right, in this stretch, because that would have been great to see and potentially made a difference in these last two games for sure. But feels like whenever Pods is on a real hot stretch, JK's cooled off a bit or injured, as we saw in the second half of the season. And when JK's really going, Pods isn't. So it's a bit disappointing. Arminia says the 41st pick goes to Memphis. No, I don't think that's the case. The 41st pick is from Miami in the Butler trade. NBA draft order. I'm very confident the Warriors have, I believe, the 41st pick. They obviously give up the 20th pick to the Miami Heat as part of the Butler trade, but yes, the Warriors have the 41st pick from Miami to Golden State. The Warriors give up the 48th pick from Warriors from them to Memphis, as you're talking about. B24 says, I'm a huge JK fan. I love Pods. People are stupid to think Pod's supposed to score 20 a game. He's still young. Absolutely. I mean, he says, yeah, Memphis owns rights to the Warriors' 41st pick. No, they own the rights to the 48th pick of the Warriors. The Warriors get the 41st pick from Miami in the Butler trade. Young West says 1, 2, 3 Cancun. Yep, the lads probably be on holidays pretty soon, unfortunately. Man, it's wild. Like game 5, right? I mean, who could be playing their last game? Could be a bunch of guys on this team playing their last game for the franchise, which is wild to think about. But it's reality. It's obviously a big decision to come on Kuminga. Decisions to come as on Loon and GP2 as free agents. So plenty to work out. And that's before we even get to trade scenarios where, honestly, anyone but Steph could be dealt. And it feels like we've been saying that for a while, but I think it's certainly reality. So anyway, we won't give up until the fat lady sings, as they say, and let's hope for a turnaround in game 5. Not overly optimistic, but maybe Jimmy can pull something out of the bag. I'm going to finish it up there, guys. Been going for over 41 minutes. Thanks to those of you that have come in the chat and given your thoughts on this game or the draft lottery or the Giannis stuff, anything like that. Appreciate you guys that are watching on replay or listening via the podcast feed. I've got a game myself tonight. It's about nearly 4 p.m. My time at the moment. Got a game not till 8:40, late night game. Probably going to be pretty tired for it. Not ideal. Got a teammate of mine who's a very big Timberwolves fan. And so wish me luck because he's going to be getting into me a little bit, albeit probably not as much because I think he realizes that this series might have been a different story had Steph not got injured. So there's always that as a Warrior fan. You can always point to, well, if Steph hadn't got injured, it's potentially, I think, and most likely a different story. Anyway, guys, thanks again. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel already, that'd be greatly appreciated. Follow me at POC252. That's POK252 on X/Twitter. I'll be back for another post-game live, potentially the last post-game live of the season on Wednesday, US time, Thursday, my time. Thanks, guys.